have you ever felt hurt because someone did not call, did not appreciate you, did not stay loyal, or did not treat you the way you expected? In those moments, it is easy to blame people. You tell yourself that they disappointed you, betrayed you, or let you down. But pause for a moment and look deeper. Did they truly hurt you? Or did your expectations create a picture of who they should be? Many of our deepest disappointments do not come from people themselves. They come from the silent expectations we carry inside us. We expect others to understand us without explanation. We expect them to return our kindness, remember our sacrifices, and behave according to our hopes. And when reality does not match those expectations, suffering enters the mind. Buddhist wisdom teaches a simple but life-changing truth. The less you demand from people, the more peaceful your heart becomes. People are imperfect, life is unpredictable, and expectations often create pain that did not need to exist. The moment you understand this, you stop blaming others and begin protecting your peace. 1. Expectations create most of our disappointments. Many people believe that other people are the source of their disappointment. They say, "My friend let me down," or "My family hurt me." Yet I tell you, if you look deeply, you will often find that disappointment began long before the event itself. It began in the mind. Before another person acted, the mind had already created an expectation. It imagined how someone should behave, what they should say, and how they should respond. Then reality arrived and failed to follow this invisible script. At that moment, suffering appeared. The pain was not only caused by another person's actions, it was also created by the difference between reality and expectation. The greater the expectation, the greater the disappointment. This is why expectations are often the hidden roots of suffering. Imagine giving kindness to someone and silently expecting equal kindness in return. You help them, support them, and care for them. Without saying anything, the mind creates an agreement that exists only inside itself. It says, "Because I gave this, they should give the same back to me." Yet the other person may never have made such a promise. They may think differently, value different things, or express care in another way. When they fail to respond according to your expectations, disappointment enters the heart. You feel unappreciated and hurt. Much of this pain was born from a silent contract that existed only in your own mind. Expectations often create these invisible agreements, and then we suffer when others unknowingly fail to honor them. 2. People cannot always be who you want them to be. Many people suffer because they create an image of who someone should become, and then become disappointed when reality unfolds differently. The mind says, "My friend should understand me better," or "My family should support my choices." Quietly, it builds expectations and imagines how another person should think, feel, and behave. Yet every human being carries their own experiences, fears, desires, and limitations. No two minds are exactly alike, I tell you. Suffering often begins when you stop seeing people as they are and start seeing only who you want them to be. The more tightly you hold this image, the more painful reality becomes. Peace begins when you release the demand that others fit the picture your mind has created. A parent may wish their child to choose a certain career, live in a particular place, or follow certain values. They believe these expectations come from love. Yet the child has their own journey, their own lessons, and their own understanding of life. When the child walks a different path, disappointment enters the heart. The parent feels rejected, while the child feels misunderstood. Neither intends to create suffering, yet suffering appears because one person expected another to become someone different. Wisdom teaches that love becomes lighter when it allows others the freedom to follow their own path. Many people enter relationships carrying hopes that slowly transform into demands. They want their partner to become more patient, more attentive, or more emotionally expressive. They imagine that enough love will change another person's nature, yet change cannot be forced. A person may grow over time, but growth must arise from their own awareness. The more we insist that someone become different for our comfort, the more tension develops. Relationships suffer because expectations replace acceptance. Peace grows when you appreciate another person without constantly trying to reshape them according to your preferences. The Buddha taught that attachment creates suffering because it resists reality. One form of attachment is becoming attached to an imagined version of someone. The mind says they should behave differently and then struggles against what is actually happening. This resistance creates frustration because reality rarely obeys our demands. People change according to their own causes and conditions, not according to our wishes. Understanding this truth softens the heart. It allows you to see people clearly rather than through the lens of expectation. Many disappointments happen because we assume that others think exactly as we do. If something is important to us, we believe it should be equally important to them. If we express love in one way, we expect them to express love in the same way. Yet every person experiences life differently. One person values words, another values actions. One seeks closeness, another seeks independence. Suffering grows when we forget these differences and insist that everyone should reflect our own way of being. Wisdom accepts diversity rather than fighting against it. Observe how often anger arises when people refuse to behave according to our expectations. A friend cancels plans and irritation appears. A relative disagrees with us and frustration grows. A loved one makes choices we would never make and disappointment follows. Beneath these emotions often lies a hidden demand. The mind expected reality to unfold differently. It expected another person to act according to its preferences. Once this expectation is recognized, suffering becomes easier to understand and release. Many people spend years trying to change someone who has repeatedly shown no desire to change. They keep hoping, persuading, and waiting. They believe that if they are patient enough, the other person will eventually become the version they imagined. Yet time passes, and the same patterns remain. Exhaustion grows because the mind is attached not to reality but to possibility. Peace returns when you stop asking people to become who you wish they were and begin accepting who they actually are in this moment. Acceptance does not mean approving every behavior or allowing harmful actions to continue without boundaries. It simply means seeing reality clearly. If someone is impatient, acceptance acknowledges their impatience. If someone struggles emotionally, acceptance recognizes that struggle. Clear seeing allows wise action. Denial and unrealistic expectations create confusion. Acceptance removes unnecessary suffering because it stops demanding that reality be something other than what it is. Many relationships become healthier when expectations soften. Pressure decreases because people no longer feel constantly measured against impossible standards. Appreciation grows because attention shifts from what is missing to what is present. The heart becomes gentler because it stops demanding perfection from imperfect human beings. Relationships flourish when people are given room to be themselves instead of being forced into roles they never chose. The Buddha often encouraged compassion because compassion understands human limitations. Every person carries wounds, habits, fears, and conditioning that influence their behavior. They make mistakes, they misunderstand, they fail to meet expectations. Compassion recognizes these imperfections without becoming bitter. It sees that everyone is learning and struggling in different ways. This understanding reduces disappointment because it replaces unrealistic demands with patience and wisdom. As awareness deepens, you begin loving people differently. You stop loving your idea of who they could become and start appreciating who they are right now. You become less interested in controlling and more interested in understanding. Expectations become lighter because acceptance grows stronger. This shift creates tremendous freedom because your peace no longer depends on forcing others to match your preferences. Therefore, I say people cannot always be who you want them to be, because every person walks their own path and carries their own nature. Suffering appears when we insist that others fit the images created by our minds. Peace appears when we release these demands and allow people the freedom to be themselves. You can still guide, encourage, and love deeply, but you stop requiring others to become different in order for your heart to remain peaceful. In this understanding, relationships become lighter, compassion becomes deeper, and disappointment loses much of its power. 3. Unspoken expectations lead to hidden suffering. Many people suffer from disappointments they never clearly expressed. They expect others to understand their needs, recognize their sacrifices, and respond in certain ways, yet they never communicate these desires openly. The expectation exists silently within the mind, hidden even from the person it concerns. Then, when reality unfolds differently, hurt appears. The person feels ignored, neglected, or misunderstood. Yet the other individual may have had no idea that an expectation even existed. I tell you, much of human suffering is born not from spoken conflicts, but from silent demands. The mind creates a private agreement and then suffers when another person unknowingly fails to fulfill it. This hidden process creates pain that often feels mysterious because its true source remains unseen. The Buddha taught that suffering often grows in the space between reality and expectation. Unspoken expectations widen this space because they are built entirely within the mind. You may expect someone to call when you are sad, remember an important date, or notice your struggles without explanation. Yet the other person lives within their own world of thoughts and concerns. They cannot always see what remains unspoken. The mind then interprets their behavior as lack of love or care. In truth, they may simply be unaware. Hidden expectations create hidden suffering because they ask others to respond to needs they cannot clearly perceive. Many people assume that love should make understanding automatic. They believe that someone who truly cares will know exactly what they need without being told. They expect loved ones to read emotions, notice subtle signs, and anticipate desires perfectly. Yet human beings do not possess such complete understanding. Even those who love us deeply remain imperfect. They misunderstand, overlook details, and fail to notice things we believe should be obvious. Suffering arises when we mistake love for mind reading. Peace grows when we recognize that understanding often requires communication rather than silent expectation. Observe how resentment develops. It rarely appears suddenly. Instead, it grows slowly through repeated disappointments. The mind keeps creating expectations, and reality repeatedly fails to meet them. Because the expectations remain unspoken, confusion increases. The person suffering feels hurt, while the other person often feels unaware that anything is wrong. Resentment then accumulates quietly. This hidden suffering becomes heavy because it is fed by assumptions rather than clarity. Awareness interrupts this cycle by revealing the expectations that were silently shaping emotional experience. Many parents expect gratitude from their children without expressing these feelings directly. They make sacrifices and hope their efforts will be recognized and appreciated. When appreciation does not appear in the expected way, sadness enters the heart. The child may still feel love and gratitude, but express it differently or remain unaware of what the parent desires. The suffering arises not simply from a lack of appreciation, but from the expectation that appreciation should appear in a specific form. Unspoken expectations often make us suffer over meanings that exist only within our own minds. Friendships are also affected by hidden expectations. One friend may expect constant availability, frequent communication, or unquestioning support. Yet these expectations remain unexpressed. When the friend becomes busy or acts differently than expected, disappointment appears. The relationship feels less secure because assumptions have replaced understanding. The suffering is real, but its source often lies not in the friend's actions alone, but in the silent expectations that were never openly acknowledged. The Buddha taught that attachment often disguises itself in subtle ways. Unspoken expectations are one of these disguises. The mind becomes attached to an imagined response, an imagined behavior, or an imagined outcome. It quietly says they should know this, or they should do this. Then reality moves differently. Because the expectation was hidden, the resulting disappointment feels confusing and personal. Yet awareness reveals that attachment was present from the beginning. Understanding this truth weakens unnecessary suffering. Many people fear expressing their needs because they worry about appearing demanding or vulnerable. Instead of communicating honestly, they rely on assumptions. They hope others will simply understand. Yet assumptions often create more pain than honesty. Clarity gives relationships an opportunity to grow. Hidden expectations do not. They remain in darkness, quietly shaping emotions and producing disappointments that no one else can fully understand. Wisdom encourages openness rather than silent demands. Imagine carrying a map that no one else can see. You expect others to follow directions that exist only in your mind. When they walk a different path, frustration appears. This is how unspoken expectations often function. They create invisible standards and then judge reality according to those standards. The other person may never know the rules by which they are being measured. Awareness reveals the unfairness of this process and invites a gentler, more realistic way of relating to others. As mindfulness grows, you begin noticing your hidden expectations more clearly. You observe when the mind quietly says, they should remember or they should understand. Instead of automatically believing these thoughts, you examine them. You ask whether the expectation was ever expressed or whether it exists only as an assumption. This simple act of observation creates freedom. The mind becomes less reactive because it recognizes the difference between reality and imagination. Relationships become lighter when hidden expectations begin fading. You stop demanding that others know what has never been communicated. You become more accepting of human limitations and less dependent upon mind reading and assumptions. Appreciation grows because you no longer measure every interaction against invisible standards. The heart becomes calmer because it releases many unnecessary demands that previously created disappointment. Therefore, I say unspoken expectations lead to hidden suffering because they create silent agreements that exist only within the mind. The heart quietly expects others to know, understand, and respond in particular ways without ever expressing these desires clearly. When reality fails to follow these invisible expectations, disappointment appears. Yet much of this pain can soften through awareness. By recognizing hidden expectations and releasing unnecessary assumptions, you protect your peace. Relationships become clearer, understanding becomes deeper, and the heart learns to live with greater acceptance and less suffering for our attachment makes. Expectations stronger. The more attached you become to something, the more expectations you quietly create around it. At first, attachment appears harmless. You care deeply about a person, a relationship, or an outcome. Yet slowly the mind begins making demands. It says, this person should always be there for me. It says this relationship should never change. It says things should unfold exactly as I hope. Attachment strengthens expectations because it turns preferences into necessities. What you once appreciated becomes something you believe you need. When reality fails to satisfy these expectations, suffering appears. I tell you, attachment is not merely loving something. It is clinging to it and demanding that it continue providing comfort in a particular way. This demand becomes the seed of disappointment. The Buddha taught that all things are impermanent. People change, emotions change, and circumstances change. Yet attachment resists this truth. It wants stability in an unstable world. It wants certainty where uncertainty naturally exists. The attached mind becomes uncomfortable with change because change threatens what it has become dependent upon. Expectations grow stronger because attachment desperately seeks guarantees. It wants promises that life cannot provide. In this struggle against impermanence, suffering takes root and expands. Observe how expectations become stronger in close relationships. A person may appreciate a friend's kindness in the beginning. Then attachment grows, and appreciation quietly turns into expectation. The mind starts saying, "They should always answer my messages," or "they should always prioritize me." These expectations may never be spoken, yet they become powerful. When the friend becomes busy or changes their behavior, disappointment appears. The suffering feels like betrayal, but often it is attachment reacting to reality's refusal to remain fixed. Many parents become deeply attached to ideas about how their children should live. They imagine certain careers, choices, and values. Their love becomes mixed with expectation. The child is no longer simply loved for who they are, but is also expected to fulfill certain hopes. When life unfolds differently, disappointment appears. The parent suffers because attachment transformed wishes into demands. Wisdom loves without insisting that another person's life follow a predetermined script. Attachment also strengthens expectations within romantic relationships. The more emotionally dependent someone becomes, the more they expect constant attention, understanding, and reassurance. They expect their partner to anticipate needs, prevent loneliness, and provide continuous emotional comfort. These expectations become heavy burdens because no human being can fulfill them perfectly. The attached mind seeks security through another person, and therefore every perceived failure feels deeply painful. The Buddha compared attachment to tightly grasping something in your hand. The tighter you hold it, the more fear arises. You fear loss, change, and disappointment. Expectations grow stronger because attachment believes that controlling outcomes will preserve happiness. Yet life cannot be controlled in this way. The harder you cling, the more fragile your peace becomes. Happiness that depends upon specific outcomes is easily disturbed because reality remains beyond complete control. Many people do not realize how much attachment influences their expectations. They believe they are simply caring deeply. Yet caring and clinging are different. Caring appreciates what is present. Clinging fears its absence. Caring remains open. Clinging demands certainty. Expectations become stronger whenever attachment transforms appreciation into dependency. This subtle shift often goes unnoticed until suffering appears and reveals the attachment that was hidden beneath the surface. Attachment often creates unrealistic standards for others. The attached mind expects people to understand, remember, and respond exactly as it wishes. It forgets that others have their own struggles, limitations, and perspectives. Because attachment places emotional security in another person, it expects that person to behave in ways that protect that security. When they inevitably fail to meet every expectation, disappointment arises. The stronger the attachment, the stronger the expectations, and the deeper the resulting suffering. Many emotional conflicts begin not because someone acted maliciously, but because attachment magnified expectations beyond reality. A person forgot to call, became distracted, or made a different choice. The attached mind experiences these ordinary events as deeply painful because its expectations had become enormous. Attachment turns small disappointments into large wounds because too much emotional importance has been placed upon external conditions. The Buddha never taught people to stop loving others. He taught them to love wisely. Wise love appreciates people while accepting their impermanence. It enjoys connection without demanding guarantees. It welcomes kindness without insisting that it always appear. This kind of love creates fewer expectations because it understands the changing nature of life. Peace grows because attachment loosens its grip and appreciation becomes lighter. As awareness deepens, you begin noticing where attachment has quietly created demands. You observe when the mind says this must stay, or this person must behave differently. Instead of immediately believing these thoughts, you examine them. You remember that all things are subject to change. This remembrance softens expectations. It creates space for acceptance and reduces unnecessary suffering. Therefore, I say, attachment makes expectations stronger because attachment transforms desires into demands and preferences into necessities. The more tightly you cling to people, relationships, and outcomes, the more you expect them to behave according to your wishes. Yet life continues changing according to its own nature. Peace returns when attachment weakens and appreciation takes its place. You still love deeply, but you stop demanding guarantees from an impermanent world. In this understanding, expectations become lighter, disappointments become gentler, and the heart discovers a more peaceful way of loving. 5. Acceptance brings more peace than demands. Many people believe peace will arrive when people finally behave as they want, when life unfolds according to their plans, and when circumstances become perfect. Yet I tell you, this way of living creates endless struggle. Reality rarely follows our demands completely. People have their own minds, and life moves according to causes and conditions beyond our control. The more demands we place upon reality, the more opportunities we create for disappointment. Acceptance offers another path. Acceptance does not mean liking everything that happens. It means seeing clearly what is happening without immediately fighting against it. The heart becomes lighter because it stops exhausting itself in constant resistance. Peace grows not because the world suddenly changes, but because your relationship with the world changes. The Buddha taught that suffering often arises from insisting that reality should be different from what it is. A person changes and the mind says they should have stayed the same. A situation becomes difficult and the mind says this should not be happening. In each case, suffering increases because reality and expectation are moving in different directions. Acceptance gently closes this gap. It acknowledges change without unnecessary resistance. It sees life as it is instead of endlessly arguing with it. This understanding does not remove every challenge, but it removes much of the additional suffering created by demands. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control things that cannot be controlled. They try to control how others think, how others feel, and how others respond. They spend years wishing people were different, yet every unmet demand creates frustration. Acceptance does not surrender wisdom or effort. It simply recognizes the limits of control. It understands that another person's thoughts and choices belong to them. This recognition creates freedom because the mind stops carrying responsibilities that were never truly its own. Observe how much tension exists in a demanding mind. It constantly measures reality against expectation. It says, this is not enough, or that should have happened differently. Even beautiful moments become difficult to enjoy because attention remains fixed on what is missing. The demanding mind rarely rests because it is always searching for improvements and corrections. Acceptance softens this habit. It invites the mind to appreciate what is present rather than constantly suffering over what is absent. Acceptance is often misunderstood. Many people think it means becoming passive or allowing harmful situations to continue, yet acceptance and passivity are not the same. Acceptance sees reality clearly and then responds wisely. If a problem requires action, action can still be taken. If a boundary is necessary, a boundary can still be established. The difference is that action comes from clarity rather than emotional resistance. The heart remains calm because it is responding to reality rather than fighting against its existence. The Buddha often encouraged mindful observation because observation naturally leads toward acceptance. When you sit quietly and watch the mind, you notice that everything changes. Emotions rise and pass away. Thoughts appear and disappear. Experiences come and go. Nothing remains fixed. Acceptance grows from this understanding of impermanence. The mind gradually stops demanding permanence from things that are constantly changing. Peace deepens because expectations become more realistic. Many disappointments in relationships arise because demands replace acceptance. One person expects another to always understand, always agree, or always behave in certain ways. Yet human beings are imperfect and constantly evolving. Acceptance recognizes this imperfection. It allows people to be human rather than demanding perfection from them. This approach creates healthier relationships because it reduces unnecessary pressure and unrealistic expectations. Imagine trying to stop the wind from blowing. The effort itself creates frustration because the task is impossible. In many ways, demanding that life obey your preferences is similar. You struggle against realities that cannot always be changed. Acceptance is like opening your hand instead of clenching your fist. It does not force the wind to stop. It simply stops fighting with the wind. This simple shift conserves enormous emotional energy and creates space for peace. The demanding mind often believes that acceptance means losing something important. It fears that if it accepts reality, it will stop caring or stop trying. Yet the opposite is often true. Acceptance creates clarity, and clarity leads to wiser action. The mind becomes less reactive and more thoughtful. Instead of wasting energy resisting what exists, it directs energy toward meaningful responses. This balance strengthens both wisdom and peace. Gratitude grows naturally in an accepting mind. When demands weaken, appreciation becomes easier. The heart notices kindness instead of focusing only on what was missing. It values the present moment rather than constantly comparing it to imagined alternatives. Happiness becomes more accessible because attention shifts away from endless dissatisfaction and toward what is actually here. As acceptance deepens, life begins feeling lighter, not because problems disappear, but because unnecessary resistance fades. Relationships become gentler because expectations soften. Difficult moments become more manageable because reality is no longer being fought constantly. The mind discovers that peace is less dependent upon changing the world and more dependent upon understanding it. This realization creates tremendous freedom. Therefore, I say acceptance brings more peace than demands, because demands often ask reality to become something other than what it is. They create tension, disappointment, and endless struggle. Acceptance offers another way. It sees clearly, understands impermanence, and releases unnecessary resistance. You still care, act, and love deeply, but you no longer insist that life unfold according to your wishes before allowing yourself peace. In this understanding, the heart becomes calmer, relationships become lighter, and happiness begins growing naturally from within. 6I. Sharp expect less and appreciate more. Many people move through life carrying endless expectations. They expect people to understand them, circumstances to favor them, and life to unfold according to their plans. Because of these expectations, they often overlook the blessings already present before them. The mind becomes so focused on what is missing that it forgets to notice what has been given. I tell you, this habit quietly steals happiness. A person may have loving relationships, good health, and simple comforts, yet remain dissatisfied because attention remains fixed upon unmet expectations. Appreciation cannot flourish in a mind constantly demanding more. Peace begins when expectations soften and gratitude awakens. The Buddha taught that suffering often grows through attachment and desire. The mind says, I need more attention, more recognition, or more certainty. Even when something good is received, satisfaction remains temporary because the mind quickly creates another demand. This endless cycle prevents contentment from taking root. Appreciation interrupts this pattern. It invites you to pause and notice what already exists. It asks you to recognize the kindness that has been offered, the opportunities that have appeared, and the simple moments that often go unnoticed. Through appreciation, the heart becomes lighter. Imagine receiving a gift from someone you care about. If you expected something greater, disappointment may arise despite the kindness behind the gesture. Yet if you expected nothing and received even a small expression of care, gratitude naturally appears. The gift itself remains the same. What changes is the state of mind receiving it. Expectations determine whether we focus on what is absent or appreciate what is present. This simple truth influences much of our emotional experience. Many people expect appreciation from others, but rarely pause to appreciate others, themselves. They hope their efforts will be noticed and their sacrifices remembered. When recognition does not appear, frustration grows. Yet appreciation is often more transformative than expectation. When you learn to give without constantly demanding acknowledgement, your actions become lighter. Kindness becomes its own reward rather than a transaction waiting for repayment. This shift protects peace because happiness no longer depends upon external recognition. The Buddha often encouraged gratitude because gratitude changes the direction of attention. Expectations look forward and say, I need something more. Appreciation looks at the present and says, there is already something valuable here. One creates restlessness, while the other creates contentment. This does not mean abandoning goals or desires entirely. It means refusing to overlook present blessings while constantly reaching for future satisfaction. Gratitude anchors the mind in the richness of the present moment. Observe how children often delight in small things. A flower, a kind word, or a simple game can bring great joy. Over time, many adults lose this ability because expectations grow larger. Small blessings no longer seem enough. The mind becomes accustomed to seeking bigger experiences, greater achievements, and more recognition. Appreciation restores simplicity. It allows ordinary moments to become meaningful again. Happiness becomes easier to find because it no longer depends upon extraordinary conditions. Many relationships suffer because expectations are greater than appreciation. A person may receive countless acts of kindness from a loved one, yet remain focused on one thing that was not provided. The mind becomes blind to abundance because it is obsessed with absence. Appreciation opens the eyes again. It notices the efforts, gestures, and care that are already present. Relationships become healthier because gratitude replaces constant dissatisfaction. The Buddha taught that life is uncertain and impermanent. Nothing is guaranteed. Understanding this truth naturally increases appreciation. When you realize that every conversation, every act of kindness, and every day of life is temporary, gratitude grows. You stop assuming that good things will always remain. Instead, you learn to cherish them while they are here. Appreciation deepens because impermanence has made their value visible. Many people postpone happiness because they are waiting for expectations to be fulfilled. They think, I will appreciate life when this problem disappears, or I will be grateful when I have more. Yet this habit creates endless delay. There will always be something else to desire. Appreciation invites you to stop postponing peace. It reminds you that contentment can begin now, within the conditions already present. As expectations decrease, disappointments become gentler. A person who demands little from others is often surprised by kindness and deeply grateful for simple gestures. Their happiness becomes more stable because it is no longer built upon endless demands. Appreciation creates resilience because the mind learns to value what is present instead of constantly longing for what is absent. Peace becomes easier because gratitude requires less from the world. The heart that appreciates more becomes naturally generous. It gives thanks more easily, notices beauty more readily, and experiences joy more frequently. This does not happen because life suddenly becomes perfect. It happens because attention has shifted. The mind no longer measures reality solely according to unmet expectations. Instead, it sees blessings that were previously overlooked. Appreciation transforms ordinary experiences into sources of contentment. Therefore, I say expect less and appreciate more, because expectations often blind the heart to what already exists. They create endless demands that prevent satisfaction from taking root. Appreciation offers another way. It turns attention toward present blessings and reveals abundance within ordinary life. The less you demand from people and circumstances, the more grateful you become for what is freely given. In this understanding, disappointments weaken, gratitude deepens, and the heart discovers a quieter and more lasting form of happiness. 7. Stop giving others responsibility for your happiness. Many people spend their lives believing that happiness lives in other people. They think a loving partner will complete them, loyal friends will keep them happy, and family members will protect them from loneliness. Because of this belief, they quietly place responsibility for their emotional well-being into the hands of others. Yet I tell you, this creates a fragile kind of happiness. The moment someone becomes distant, changes their behavior, or fails to meet expectations, peace begins to collapse. Fear enters the heart because happiness has been built upon conditions that cannot be controlled. True peace cannot rest entirely in another person's hands because people are imperfect and life is always changing. The Buddha taught that suffering often arises when we cling to external conditions for inner stability. When your happiness depends on another person's attention, you become anxious about losing that attention. When your peace depends upon someone's approval, criticism suddenly feels unbearable. The mind becomes restless because it is constantly monitoring the behavior of others. Every message, every reaction, and every change in attitude begins influencing your emotional state. This is not freedom, it is dependence disguised as happiness. Many people unknowingly make another person responsible for feelings they have never learned to create within themselves. They expect someone else to provide comfort, confidence, and meaning. They hope another person will remove loneliness, heal insecurities, and fill emotional emptiness. Yet no human being can carry such a burden perfectly. Even those who love us deeply cannot remain emotionally available at every moment. When expectations become too heavy, disappointment naturally follows. The suffering does not come from a lack of love. It comes from asking another person to provide something that ultimately must grow within ourselves. Observe how often the mind says, "I will be happy when this person changes." It may be a parent who finally understands you, a friend who becomes more attentive, or a partner who behaves differently. The mind postpones peace and places it in a future controlled by someone else's actions. Yet your happiness becomes imprisoned because it depends upon conditions beyond your influence. The Buddha encouraged people to reclaim their inner responsibility because peace built upon external behavior remains unstable. Many relationships become strained because one person is expected to provide constant emotional fulfillment. They are expected to prevent loneliness, remove sadness, and satisfy endless emotional needs. Such expectations place enormous pressure on relationships. Love becomes heavy because it carries responsibilities it was never meant to bear. Relationships thrive when people share happiness rather than demand it from one another. This balance creates greater freedom and reduces unnecessary suffering. The Buddha never taught isolation or indifference toward others. Human connection has beauty and value. Friendships, family, and love enrich life in countless ways. Yet there is an important difference between appreciating these relationships and depending entirely upon them for happiness. Appreciation says, "I am grateful for your presence." Dependence says, "I cannot be okay without you." One creates freedom, the other creates fear. Wisdom encourages appreciation without emotional captivity. Imagine carrying a bowl filled with water while someone else holds it for you. As long as they remain steady, the water stays secure. Yet if they move unexpectedly, stumble, or walk away, everything changes. This is how many people treat their happiness. They place it in another person's hands and hope it remains safe. Peace becomes uncertain because it is no longer rooted within. The wiser path is learning to carry your own bowl. Relationships may still enrich your life, but your stability no longer depends entirely upon them. Many people fear being alone because they have never learned to create happiness from within. Solitude feels uncomfortable because it reveals how much emotional dependence has developed. Yet solitude also offers an opportunity. It invites you to discover inner resources that have been neglected. You learn that peace can exist without constant reassurance. You discover that contentment can emerge from simple awareness, gratitude, and understanding. This realization creates tremendous emotional freedom. The Buddha taught that happiness arising from wisdom remains more stable than happiness dependent upon circumstances. External conditions constantly change. People come and go, relationships evolve. Life remains uncertain. If your happiness depends entirely upon these shifting conditions, instability becomes unavoidable. Inner happiness, however, grows from qualities that can be cultivated regardless of circumstances. Gratitude, mindfulness, compassion, and understanding provide a steadier foundation for peace. As awareness deepens, you begin noticing where you have placed responsibility for your emotions onto others. You observe expectations that certain people should always comfort you, understand you, or behave in ways that protect your happiness. Instead of blaming yourself, you simply become aware. This awareness is powerful because it reveals where dependence exists and where freedom can begin. Relationships become healthier when responsibility for happiness returns to where it belongs. You stop demanding that others carry your emotional burdens. You stop making their behavior the measure of your peace. Appreciation becomes easier because expectations become lighter. Love feels gentler because it is no longer burdened by endless emotional demands. You can enjoy people's presence without fearing their absence quite so intensely. Therefore, I say, stop giving others responsibility for your happiness, because no person can perfectly manage your emotional world. People will change, become busy, misunderstand you, and sometimes disappoint you. This is part of human life. The more responsibility you place upon them, the more fragile your peace becomes. Reclaim your happiness by nurturing it within yourself. Appreciate people deeply, love sincerely, and enjoy companionship fully, but never forget that the deepest source of peace must grow inside your own awareness. In this understanding, relationships become lighter, fear decreases, and the heart discovers a freedom that no one can easily take away. Inner peace grows when expectations fade. Many people spend their lives chasing peace while carrying countless expectations. They expect people to understand them perfectly, life to unfold according to their plans, and relationships to remain exactly as they are. Yet each expectation becomes another opportunity for disappointment. Every unmet demand creates frustration, sadness, or resentment. The mind remains restless because it is constantly comparing reality to its own desires. I tell you, Peace struggles to grow in a mind that is always demanding something more. Inner peace begins to emerge when expectations become lighter. As demands fade, reality no longer feels like an enemy that must be controlled. The heart starts relaxing because it is no longer fighting against every difference between what is and what it hoped would be. The Buddha taught that attachment creates suffering because it clings to outcomes that cannot be guaranteed. Expectations are one expression of this attachment. The mind says, this person should stay, or things should happen this way. Yet life follows its own movement. People change, circumstances shift, and the future remains uncertain. Every time reality moves differently from expectation, disappointment appears. When expectations begin fading, this struggle weakens. The mind becomes more flexible because it stops insisting that life obey its preferences. This flexibility creates space where peace can naturally grow. Imagine carrying a heavy bag filled with demands. Each expectation adds another weight. You expect appreciation, loyalty, agreement, attention, and certainty. The more expectations you carry, the heavier the emotional burden becomes. Every interaction feels important because it might satisfy or disappoint another demand. When expectations fade, it is as though this burden is gradually removed. The heart feels lighter because it is no longer carrying so many conditions for happiness. Peace often feels like relief because unnecessary weight has finally been released. Many people mistakenly believe that expectations protect them from pain. They think demanding certain behaviors from others will make relationships safer and life more predictable. Yet expectations often create the very suffering they are meant to prevent. They produce anxiety because the mind constantly worries whether reality will cooperate. Inner peace grows when you stop trying to force certainty upon an uncertain world. Acceptance replaces constant vigilance, and calmness becomes possible again. Observe how children often recover quickly from small disappointments. Their expectations are usually simple and short-lived. Adults, however, often carry years of accumulated expectations. They expect people to remember old sacrifices, fulfill promises, and meet emotional needs in specific ways. These expectations become deeply rooted and difficult to release. Yet the heart remains heavy because it is carrying demands that reality may never satisfy. Peace returns as these demands slowly soften and lose their grip. The Buddha encouraged mindful awareness because awareness reveals hidden expectations. Many people do not realize how often they are silently demanding things from life. They expect others to agree with their opinions, notice their struggles, and behave according to their standards. These expectations feel natural and reasonable because they have become habitual. Through awareness, you begin seeing these demands clearly. This seeing is important because expectations lose some of their power once they are recognized. Relationships often become healthier when expectations fade. Pressure decreases because people no longer feel constantly measured against invisible standards. Appreciation becomes easier because attention shifts from what is missing to what is present. Small acts of kindness become meaningful again because they are no longer treated as obligations. Peace grows because relationships become places of connection rather than arenas of constant disappointment and unmet demands. Inner peace also grows because fading expectations create emotional resilience. When your happiness no longer depends upon specific outcomes, unexpected changes become easier to navigate. People may still disappoint you, and circumstances may still shift, but your emotional stability remains stronger. The mind becomes less reactive because it is no longer built upon rigid expectations. This resilience allows peace to endure even when life becomes uncertain. The Buddha often compared attachment to holding something tightly in your hand. The tighter the grip, the greater the fear of losing it. Expectations create similar tension. The mind becomes anxious because it desperately wants reality to remain within certain boundaries. As expectations fade, the grip loosens. Fear decreases because the mind becomes more willing to allow life to unfold naturally. Peace grows because control is replaced by acceptance. Many people discover that fading expectations does not make life empty. Instead, it makes life more surprising and beautiful. When you stop demanding specific responses, acts of kindness become gifts rather than obligations. When you stop expecting perfection, human imperfections become easier to forgive. The world feels less burdensome because it is no longer being measured against endless mental requirements. Appreciation increases because the mind becomes more open to what actually exists. As awareness deepens, you begin enjoying the present moment more fully. Expectations often pull attention toward imagined futures and desired outcomes. Peace lives in the present. When expectations weaken, attention naturally returns to what is happening right now. The beauty of simple experiences becomes visible again. Gratitude appears more easily because the mind is no longer consumed by thoughts of what should be different. Inner peace expands because presence replaces constant striving. Therefore, I say, inner peace grows when expectations fade, because expectations often create unnecessary struggle between reality and desire. They burden the heart with demands that life cannot always fulfill. As these demands soften, acceptance grows stronger. The mind becomes lighter because it no longer insists that people and circumstances conform to its wishes. You still care deeply, hope sincerely, and appreciate what is good, but you stop demanding guarantees from an impermanent world. In this understanding, peace quietly takes root, gratitude deepens, and the heart discovers a freedom that cannot easily be disturbed. In the end, people will disappoint you sometimes. They will forget, change, become busy, make mistakes, and fail to meet your expectations. This is part of being human. The problem begins when we demand that people behave exactly as we hope they will. Real peace comes when you stop expecting perfection from imperfect people. It comes when you learn to appreciate what is given instead of suffering over what is missing. The less you depend on others to act in certain ways, the lighter your heart becomes. So stop blaming people for every disappointment. Look gently within and ask yourself whether your expectations created unnecessary suffering. Because one of the greatest freedoms in life is learning to expect less, accept more, and protect your peace from expectations that were never guaranteed to be fulfilled.